Now you might have noticed when we were adding elements to the scene that when you add an element, you don't only give it a name, but you also give it an initial state. For a character, for example, the initial states are active and visible, and you can be inactive and visible or invisible. This allows us to control where in the game, when in the game, a character becomes interactionable, when that character, when I click on them, the flow will launch or not. And it also allows me to have a character or an object appear in a scene at a particular moment in the game. We're going to have a look at this with regards to our door. So let's look at our basement scene again. I've got a flow connected to Susan, which is just a simple conversation. And I've got a flow when I click on the files that's going to launch a lesson and a test. And I also have a flow here, which is a door to take me back to the office. I've got a poster. There's nothing built on that, so nothing's going to happen when I click on the poster. So if I arrive into this scene, this door is initially in a state of active. You can see with this green dot here that the initial state of this clickable area is active. That means that potentially our player could arrive into this scene and could click on the door and go to a different scene and not interact with either Susan or the files and not experience any of this part of the game that we want them to. So for this to be controlled, if you want to control that they have to interact with Susan before they can go into the door, for example, first of all, I'm going to set my initial state of the door to inactive. As you can see, clickable areas are always invisible, so they don't have a visible invisible option here. We just have active and inactive. There we go. Now I have to decide at what point in this scene does my door become active? When do I want it to be able to be clicked, and when do I want the player to be able to move to the next scene? So I think the appropriate point is after they've completed this test. They'll have seen the lesson, they'll have seen the test, and that's when they'll be able to leave the room, as it were. So this is where I'm going to add my block called activate. I'm going to call it activate door. The target type that I'm pointing at is a clickable area, and it is CA door. Oops, that's the wrong one. It's CA door 1. You see the importance of unique names for your pieces. So now in this scene, the door is inactive. I cannot click on the door at the beginning of the scene, not until I have experienced this flow where I have seen the lesson, I've done the test. At that point, the door will become interactionable and I will be able to click it and leave the room. And just to point out, triggers, obviously they don't have an initial state because triggers will launch right at the beginning of a scene either way. They don't need to be clicked to launch, so there is no active or inactive state for them.